Gentlemen and female gentlemen, lock in, boys and girl. It is an exciting time. We are doing a 100% blind reaction to South Park's darkest episode and why it became so hated. Blooms made a new South Park video. Blooms is one of my favorite video essay YouTuber guys on the planet that does South Park videos. I love him. And I love South Park. So we're diving in. And also, we are going to be reacting to every episode of the next South Park season that comes out. I already decided. Here on Taku, we do daily videos overanalyzing every anime, every cartoon, and every abridged series, and all lore of all video games of all time. Daily uploads. Definitely subscribe for all of that. And I'm excited to see what we got. All right, let's go. You're welcome.
So in the past, I've talked about what I believe to be South Park's most polarizing episode.
Yeah, I saw that video.
As well as their most...
That was the one with the camping.
...offensive episode. And
I didn't see that video.
Recently, when I was scrolling through my list of like 200 video ideas, I realized that there's one episode
We're all there. We all have it. I don't think you're aware. Bro, I don't think you're aware. I actually also have a giant list of videos. I think this is every YouTuber. So all right, advice to all YouTubers, because I just did this for myself and it was super helpful. I have a Discord server that I made just for myself in it. And in that Discord server, I have all my video ideas. I have all my assets. I have all like the shit that I paid for and the art that I paid for, like in different channels in my own private Discord server for all the stuff. It is super helpful. And that shit is cursed.
I haven't talked about yet that actually has both of these traits.
All right,
you see, when you read as many people's opinions on South Park as I do from my comment section, you begin to notice some patterns. For one, it seems like South Park fans are really into 19th century English literature. I don't know what that's all about. But you also begin to notice when people have very strong opinions on episodes. And with this episode in particular, it seems like a lot of people really dislike it. And for me, it was immediately clear why. All
right, the darkest hated episode of South Park? Dude, I love South Park. I am so here.
Talked about countless times, Matt and Trey are no strangers to dark humor. I mean, it's kind of what the show is built on. And because of this,
I'm all for dark humor. I don't know if you're aware of this because I've been doing it a little bit here and there. I actually started doing the Cartman voice. I started doing it to people to just like annoy them. You know, that's so cute. That's so cute. It's so cute when you say that. It's so cute. I started doing that to people. It bled into my like actual real life. Like, I actually do the fucking Cartman voice in, like, actual conversations with humans. Yeah, it's great.
You would assume that fans of the show would share a pretty similar sense of humor. But the thing about dark humor is that you have to walk a very fine line. It's a delicate balancing act.
Yeah, I like the fine line of dark humor. Like that episode where the guy said the N-word 23 times. Damn, it was incredibly nuanced. The incredibly nuanced N-word spitting, yes.
Try to make dark or offensive subject matter.
No, that's the episode. That's the one I'm talking about. The N-word. It starts with an N, it ends with an R. Nuclear.
Funny, and Matt and Trey are possibly the GOATs when it comes to doing just
they're pretty
that.
great.
But even the GOATs aren't perfect. Jordan missed dunks, Brady threw interceptions, John Jones failed a bunch of PED tests and beat his wife and did a hit and run on a pregnant lady and robbed Dominic Reyes and has been ducking college basketball for almost 2 years. And look, my point is, even the best...
The idea that we're making here isn't the fact that 13% of wizards commit about 50% of the black magic. That is not what we're talking about, okay? We're talking about how sometimes it's a little too dark. I respect Blooms for that one. That was base.
Mistakes. So in 2006, when South Park released what is widely considered to be one of the darkest episodes of the entire show, the reception from the fans wasn't exactly positive. And even to this day, its IMDb user rating places it amongst the lowest rated episodes of all time. So all of this begs the question, what went wrong? I mean, this is the same show where the highest rating...
Dude, this episode is great! What are we talking about? This is the one where he feeds this kid his dead parents in a bowl of curry. And it was an amazing episode. That's dark.
Episode had a kid eat his own parents in a chili. What could they have...
Chili, not curry, whatever.
...possibly done to turn off so many fans?
No, that was amazing.
How did a show built on dark humor make something so dark that it became so hated? So, I took it upon myself to try to answer these questions. Today, we're talking about Stanley's Cup. This is how South Park's darkest episode became so hated. All
right, I didn't watch this one. Let's go. I'm planning on overanalyzing each episode of South Park at some point. I know that there's like 1,000 episodes, but I am planning on getting there.
So first, let's talk about what happens in this episode.
I'm ready.
We open with Stan berated by his boss at the local newspaper where Stan is
child labor. What are they, Houthi terrorists? Sorry.
As a delivery boy. It's funny because rewatching this episode, I noticed that the newspapers hanging on the wall are references to other episodes of the show, mentioning Scuzzlebutt from season 1, Mr. Garrison's It invention from season 5, and of course the Smug Storm from earlier in the season. I always love when they put little Easter eggs in for fans of the show. And
I love Easter eggs. Easter eggs are cool. Don't build your entire universe on Easter eggs or you become a pandering piece of shit, but I approve.
It makes me appreciate the attention to detail. But while he's talking to his boss, Stan's bike ends up getting towed because it was on the impound list for some reason. And the bit they do where they have this tiny little bike being towed like a car always makes me laugh. So Stan is forced to go talk to the county in order to get his bike back because without it, he can't do his job. The guy he's talking to isn't very sympathetic. Instead, he keeps pulling out a record player and doing narration like a movie trailer.
But now, he's about to find out that getting his bike back isn't so easy.
I love how this guy just sounds like the Act Man.
And this guy must be a part-time voice actor because he's obviously the one doing the narration for the Rob Schneider movie trailers back in season 6.
24-karat comedy.
Hey, I see
Rob
that.
Schneider is a carrot. Rated PG-13.
But he ends up telling Stan that instead of paying for the bike, he can earn it back by doing some community service by coaching the local Pee Wee hockey team. Now,
nice, makes sense. All right, child labor and a little bit of blackmail. All right, we approve, we approve.
At this point, the direction this episode is heading is pretty clear. As I've mentioned quite a few times at this point, most of South Park's most polarizing episodes are parodies. Pit parodies Great Expectations, the ziplining episode parodies I Shouldn't Be Alive, Human Centipede is a parody of the Human Centipede, and this episode continues this trend by being a parody of sports movies. Specifically, this episode is mostly parodying the Mighty Ducks, where a lawyer is forced to do community.
Dude, only hockey will have a team, the Mighty Ducks. I'm just saying.
Service by coaching.
And then they were so humiliated, they changed their name to the Ducks instead of the Mighty Ducks. Like, I don't know who thought it was an upgrade to change the hockey team name from the Mighty Ducks to the Ducks, but that ain't it, bro. That ain't it.
A Pee Wee Hockey League team. It's the classic underdog cliche that is the driving force of so many of these types of movies, and if you're familiar with this trope, then you already know how the majority of this episode is going to play out. The majority of this episode, because as we will soon see, this story has some pretty major differences for better or worse. So Stan meets the team for the first time, which is made up entirely of toddlers who clearly have very little interest in hockey. But as he gets to know the team, he learns that one of the players, Nelson, isn't exactly in great shape.
What, you got asthma or something?
No, he has cancer.
Oh! Whoa! Holy Biden, what the fuck? Jeebus Phlebus, that came out of nowhere. Oh my god.
Nelson has leukemia. It's already spread to his bone marrow.
Oh my god, dude. What? I literally just covered Biden getting cancer spreading to his bones. How the frick is this happening to me? Oh shit, that changed. I was vibing and I was into this and
I don't want to have cancer.
well, that's a skill issue, my friend. That's a skill issue, I suppose. Yep, I see why this is dark.
It quickly becomes clear that maybe putting a literal 9-year-old in charge of a Pee Wee hockey team was not a great idea, since Stan is clearly not equipped to deal with these kids. That's when the rival team stops by to do their cliche sports movie intimidation.
Yeah, every time. We're so strong. We're so strong. You're so weak and pathetic and gay. We're so powerful and awesome. We're cute. You're pathetic and losers. You're gay and lame and retarded. You have cancer.
And doing the whole "you guys should just give up" thing, which really scares the team.
Coach, please don't let us lose to Adams County. My daddy will beat me again.
No! It's this he has a fucking hockey team of like abused children and cancer patients. That's insane that they went there, man.
When Stan gets home, he tells his parents that he's coaching a hockey team, and Randy begins to question his intentions. He thinks that Stan is doing this because he wants to prove himself after his disastrous choke in his own Pee Wee hockey game years before. Stan doesn't even remember it, but clearly it really affected Randy, who has nightmares reliving the whole situation.
Take the shot! Take the shot!
The dad has PTSD from his son being a gay retard. It's not easy. Nah.
I also find it pretty funny
Dude,
that
I actually really like that because I know this is going to be a really hot take, but I think that when it comes to kids succeeding and failing at different sports or different things, it's parents living vicariously through their children. I don't think the kids give a fuck about this shit, and I think it's because the parents try so hard to place their own expectations on their children so that their children could succeed where they failed. I really think that that this is like a really real thing that happens. I think so many cases of childhood trauma are parents putting unrealistic expectations on children so that they can fulfill some sort of narcissism in themselves so that their kid can actually win something for them, and then the kid fails at it and they make them feel like shit for literally no reason. Parents going crazy over children's sports or other children's successes is way too real. Anyway,
they make it look like this is like the 70s with Randy's sideburns and haircut, despite the fact that this was only supposed to be like 5 years ago. So the next day during practice, Nelson's parents show up to talk to Stan about his condition. It's not looking great, and the parents ask Stan if he can talk to Nelson.
What do you say to somebody who's dying, huh?
skill issue, bro. Is that too real?
I don't know.
Will you talk to him, Coach? He looks up to you. I'm just his father, but you're his coach. You're like a father to him.
What the
My favorite part of this interaction is the parents, their clothes and their demeanor, specifically the dad holding the hat in front of him while he talks. I don't really know why I find this so funny. It just feels like they pulled these two straight out of any movie with grieving parents ever, and it just works so well. I'm also like 80% sure this is a running gag, having a couple with the dude holding the hat to deliver some bad news. I can't think of any examples of this, but I swear it's happened multiple
I've for sure seen that. That is like such a really true cliche for
times in the show. So Stan goes to visit Nelson in the hospispital, and we're immediately reminded of the fact
God,
that
he looks like a character from Smiling Friends. So sad. It's so sad. That's dark.
this is a 9-year-old trying to deal with issues that he has no business dealing with.
I mean, how come I don't get to grow up?
God damn it, dude, I don't
Yikes.
know.
And also the guy doing the trailer voice stops by again to annoy Stan even more. But on the way out, Stan makes a promise to Nelson that they're gonna win for him. At the big game, Stan gives a pep talk to the team,
All right,
which
team.
isn't exactly encouraging for them.
So, if we lose, we're gonna kill Nelson?
Well, I mean, that is incentivizing something.
Oh, Jesus, no! I don't want to be a murderer!
But regardless,
Incredibly based. Threaten them, baby. Put all sorts of shit on them. Yeah, if that helps them win.
the game begins, giving us an
I'm just his father. You're his coach. You're like a father to him.
epic montage made slightly less epic by the fact that they're all 4-year-olds who can barely stand on the ice, let alone actually play hockey. That's another thing I found pretty funny about this episode. Like, this would usually be the part in the movie where they show how the other team is just so much better than them, but they just make the kids' skill level like super accurate to real life, so it's incredibly anticlimactic. When the game comes to an end, the final score is 0-0, meaning that they tied. So the trailer guy comes back to explain further.
No one touched the puck. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's hilarious.
He's about to find out that tying isn't the same as winning.
Oh my
Stan
God,
once
bro.
again visits Nelson in the hospital and talks to the doctor to get some updates about his condition, which gives us probably my favorite joke in the whole episode.
It's almost as if his cancer were tied.
Oh boy.
Oh God, that's horrible, bro.
The other guy then lets Stan know that they were selected to play at the Pepsi Center during a Colorado Avalanche game, and Stan promises to win for Nelson once again. When he tells the team
That's crazy. Then he tells the team who just fought their hearts out and is like, listen, guys, we have another chance to kill Nelson. Man. Yeah, this is a pretty dark episode. I don't know why it's so hated yet, though. Like, so far, it just kind of seems like a pretty classic South Park episode.
they have absolutely no hope about winning, which means Stan has to give them another pep talk. It seems like Stan has realized what exactly is going on here and gets pretty meta.
Haven't you guys ever seen these movies? We're just supposed to rally together, believe in ourselves,
True.
and we win in the end.
Yeah.
But one of the kids reminds him that this is actually the part in the movie where they go out and get a really good player to join the team, a la the Bad News Bears. And if you're looking for a good hockey player, there's one trait in particular that's most important.
Maybe a Canadian.
Oh, no.
And it just so happens that one of Stan's best friends has a Canadian little brother. So they get Ike to join the team, and he is much
my
better than
God.
everyone else, which, to be fair, isn't saying much. At home, Randy does a cliche monologue about not being able to watch him do this before.
I missed you, Randy. Oh, where you been? Fly, mighty ducks. Fly. Nux, is this true? It is absolutely true. Canadians learn how to skate before they learn how to walk. 100%. That's true.
Eventually coming around, to which Stan isn't even listening before ending it with some advice.
And just remember, Stan, win or lose. Those are your two options.
No, you're supposed to say win or lose. I would still be proud of you. I'm your dad. I'm proud that you're trying hard, that you put in an effort.
Win or lose.
Wow, stop being such an asshole, man.
So the big day is here,
All right.
and Stan rallies the team.
And according to every movie ever made, we're going to win this game.
The only problem is the other team didn't show up, which means they don't have anyone to play against.
No.
But the players of the Colorado Avalanche
No, what do you mean? They should win by default, man. Default victory. If the other team doesn't show up, that's a dub.
overhear this and nobly decide that the team can take their place, meaning they get to play against the Red Wings, the professional team.
No, dude. No.
As they're getting set, we see the
They put 4-year-olds up against a professional hockey team, man. Why would they do this? Like, just stop.
commenters who look suspiciously similar to the Chinese commentators from their dodgeball tournament back in season 2. It seems like they might have really perfected their American impressions.
I'll use my credit card.
So this is it.
Americans owning things, not being possessed by communist propaganda. Owning property, am I right, guys? Lamau.
Game where the underdogs pull it out in miraculous fashion, proving they have heart, showing how much they've grown emotionally and as a team. It's the storybook ending. The only problem is they're playing the Red Wings, who don't seem too fazed by the fact that they're playing 4-year-olds, as they absolutely
Beat the shit out of them.
brutalize the children on the ice. It's an absolute massacre.
Oh my lord!
They even Hey, get off of him!
How on earth is it 31-2? How did they score 2 goals? How did they score 2 goals, man? Oh lord.
Obviously, the game ends in a blowout, and the Red Wings begin celebrating as "We Are the Champions" plays in the background. They also show the head coach being greeted by his father, who tells him he's proud, revealing that the coach was going through the exact same plot as Stan. Unfortunately,
Every single coach is the main character of a hockey movie if they win. But if they lose, they are not the main characters of the hockey movie. That's crazy, man. Oh my god.
Unfortunately for Stan, he was on the wrong side of their storybook ending. And unfortunately for Nelson, they lost the game, which can only mean one thing.
No hope, no hope.
Bro!
And that's how the episode ends.
What the fuck, South Park? That's crazy. That is dark, bro. I love happy ending, guys. Am I right? Happy endings.
So what could have possibly made people dislike this episode so much?
I don't know. Probably the Canadians, to be honest. Like, this was an episode with way too many Canadians. That's why I hated it. Like, let's be real here. Without the Canadians, this episode would have been amazing. Like, think about it. Think about it properly. If there wouldn't have been Canadians, they would have won the hockey game. He would have lived. It's literally all because of the Canadians. That's the problem.
Much.
Yeah, I get why people hated it.
So it might seem kind of obvious why this...
I mean, obviously, I don't hate dark stories. I don't hate the idea that sometimes shit doesn't end with a happy ending. I don't hate that, personally.
This episode is so polarizing, but for the next few minutes, I'm going to pretend like the answer isn't immediately obvious and talk about what else this episode could have done to turn off fans. So first, let's talk about parodies. Now, in my other videos, I've talked about how not understanding the parody is a big part of the reason people don't like those episodes. But in this case...
That is true. I feel like that happens a lot. Very often, there's a parody of something, people don't get it, and therefore they don't like it. Like, I think, as a simple example, I think the Rick and Morty heist episode is one of my favorite episodes of all time ever. I love the heist episode. I think the heist episode is fucking awesome. But a lot of people never watched heist movies for some reason, and they think that that episode sucks. Like, if you don't know what it's parodying, then you won't appreciate it. So I think that's the risk of every parody.
I don't think that applies as much. I think you'd be pretty hard-pressed.
Everyone knows the average sports movie where, you know, the guy, the coach gets together with the team. Come on, team, I know we're the underdogs, but we'll huddle together and we'll win. Everyone's familiar with that.
To find someone who has never seen a sports movie, or at least a movie with an underdog story of some kind, so I don't think that would really affect the average viewer's experience. And not to mention the fact that South Park has done parodies of these exact types of movies before, specifically back in season 6 with the episode Aspen. In that case, they were parodying movies like Ski Patrol. But the difference is Aspen is one of the most unanimously loved episodes of the entire series, despite the story playing out almost exactly the same as this one. Stan is even the main character in that episode as well, so clearly the parody aspect isn't what made people dislike this episode. And it's also not like this episode has some kind of radical change.
Yeah, the Red Wings are American. Yeah, I know, they're Detroit, obviously. But Canada is they invented hockey. So it's all their fault. I stand by what I said. Also, Ike is Canadian. So, like, it's literally all Canada's fault.
The South Park.
Also, I don't know if you're aware, but there was a Canadian flag in this episode. Like, I'm not trying to be controversial or anything, but if you go back here and you look at the hockey rink, all right, I'm just saying, you go back here and you look at this very hockey rink, you'll see right over here there's a Canadian flag. Right here, there's a Canadian flag. On the same page? I think we're all on the same page now.
And it's also not like this episode has some kind of radical change to the South Park story structure like the ziplining episode. This one uses one of the tried and true South Park formulas.
Yeah, the tried and true South Park formulas. Child death. It happens all the time.
Take the boys and drop them into an absurd situation that they are either completely uninterested in or entirely unequipped to handle, and them trying to deal with that is what creates the comedy. There are tons of episodes that do exactly that. Towley, Aspen, Little Crime Stoppers, the list goes on and on. They used to do this all the time in the Golden Age, and it almost always made for great episodes. And this episode follows that formula to a T. Stan has to play the role of a coach out of necessity and is dragged begrudgingly through this underdog story, having to deal with some really dark existential topics that adults struggle with pretty regularly, let alone a literal 9-year-old. And in my opinion, this does create a bunch of funny moments.
I mean, I definitely see the dark humor of getting a 10-year-old to explain to a 4-year-old why he's dying of cancer because the parents aren't equipped to do that. I feel like that there is a dark comedy there for sure. Like, let's be real. There absolutely is some dark comedy there.
Moments throughout the episode, specifically Stan's conversations with Nelson and his parents. It's already hard enough to explain to a 4-year-old that they're dying, and by having this kid continuously expect an answer to these philosophical questions from another child, it just takes it to such an absurd level that it's funny. Pretty much this is so fucked up that—
Exactly. It's so fucked, it's just funny.
That it's funny.
It gets there. That is a genuine and I think appropriate kind of humor sometimes. It is. I think it's just like no hope at the end and then he dies in like this brutally unfair hockey game. I mean, that is the point. I think that is the point. Sometimes life's not fair. I really feel like that's the more overarching philosophy of this episode is sometimes life's not fair. It's not fair when you are beaten up by a bunch of adults in a hockey game, and it's not fair when a 4-year-old kid dies of cancer. Life's not fair, but you gotta make do with what you got. You got to do your goddamn best every day, and that's what it's all about. I really feel like that's kind of what we're talking about. You know, life sometimes isn't fair. Life's a bitch, and then you die. I mean, there are glorious parts too. Don't get me wrong. I am a very optimistic person. I love life. I thank God that I am alive. Life's not fair though. Get over it. Move on. And I feel like that's really kind of the lesson of this episode.
Reaction, which, as I've talked about, Matt and Trey are masters of. I mean, that's basically what they've done with Butters since he was introduced, and it made for some of the funniest episodes in the show.
True, they traumatized that poor bastard.
Now, one thing that is pretty unique about this episode is that Stan is pretty much the only main character in the episode. Randy has a pretty minor role, and Kyle makes a cameo, but for the most part, it's only Stan. And this is the only episode I can think of like this. Now, there's plenty of Stan-centered episodes, but they always feature other characters prominently. There are some other episodes where Stan plays a major role alongside Randy, like More Crap and Pinewood Derby, but those are really Randy episodes with Stan playing a supporting role. The thing about Stan's character is that he's probably the most neutral of the main characters. He tends to be the most rational and level-headed, whereas
that's funny.
As characters like Cartman, Randy, and Butters, who also have several solo episodes, have a lot more going on. I think that having Stan play this role may be part of the reason that some people didn't find it very funny.
Wait, really? I think I'm shocked. Because I would think that Stan playing this role is like super important. I don't know, because who else would be equipped to handle this role of telling a 4-year-old kid he's dying of cancer? Cartman? Think Cartman handle that with the respect it deserved? Butters? Like, I don't know. I feel like that's appropriate.
Like, obviously the humor comes from his inability to deal with the situation, but it can definitely feel like he's almost too passive at times. It makes me wonder how this episode might have been different if Randy, Cartman, or Butters were playing his role, since they have more distinct personalities. For example, if Randy was in this role, he probably would have made the hospital scenes even funnier because he would have accidentally given terrible answers to the kids' questions. But at the same time, you might lose some of the humor that comes from Stan being too young to even know where to start. But who knows? It definitely could be part of the reason, but realistically, there's a more fitting answer. The ending. Now, I've done a lot of digging into this.
Let's be real, it's the ending. All right, that's why people were mad. They were mad because they got attached to this character and he died, and it wasn't funny, and it's not Kenny, and he's not coming back, he's just dead, and we'll never see him again, and it's sad, and life's dark sometimes. A lot of people watch television as a parody on life, as a way to unplug from reality, as a way to, you know, kind of disassociate from the shitty existence that a lot of people live in. And this was the opposite of that.
I've come to a conclusion that you might find kind of shocking. Most people do not like seeing kids die of cancer.
What? No. What? No. I don't know. I feel like it could be a little deeper than that.
Now look, in reality, this video could have been a lot shorter if I had just done this. So why did this episode become so hated?
No hope.
No hope. That's why, man.
No hope.
Crazy scene.
You know, I think that's probably why. But A, that would have been a lot less fun, and B, I do actually believe that there's more to it than just that.
I agree with him. I do agree with him. I don't know. I think this is just such a hopeless episode. I think one of the most difficult things to wrap your head around is how life is not fair, right? It's the greatest question that people ask all the time, you know? It's the question that everybody asks. It's like, why would God make a righteous person suffer? Why would God cause pain to good people? Like, you know, it's the ultimate question. No hope. It just crushes your dreams. This is a 4-year-old that's dying of cancer. Your life's not going to treat you fairly either. It's a soul-crushing ending, and I think that's why it's hated. I don't know.
I mean, sure, it would be easy to just say, yeah, I think it's the fact that the 4-year-old dies of cancer at the end. But
Nah, that's not why. It's not just that he died of cancer. It's the entire message of the episode that's just hope-crushing.
I genuinely think that
it's part of... Look, you're not asking me my opinion and on the philosophies of life here. I'm just kind of trying to overanalyze the episode here. The reality is, life's not fair sometimes from our perspective. I don't know. If you believe in God, then, you know, God has a plan. If you don't believe in God, then everything's random. But whatever you want to say, it's a profound question.
That's only part of it, so allow me to explain why. Let's start with what Matt and Trey were going for with this ending. Obviously, as Stan points out in the episode, the ending of every sports movie is the part where they rally together to win the big game and save the day, the storybook ending. And because everyone knows this, that's what everyone was expecting going into the end of this episode.
That is a crazy subversion.
I mean, maybe not everything would go perfectly because it's still South Park, but they're not gonna actually kill the kid, right? But arguably the most important part of comedy is the subversion of expectations. Of course, Matt and Trey know this, so they decided to really subvert some expectations. Now, the reason I say that the kid dying can't be the only reason that it's so hated is because they've actually done pretty much this exact same thing before, and that episode is one of the highest rated episodes in the entire show. You see, back in season 5, they released an episode called Kenny Dies, in which Kenny is sick with a terminal illness in the
but Kenny comes back! How can you compare that?
Hospital. Now, obviously, it's a gag that Kenny dies quite frequently in the show, but this episode was different. This was serious. All of the boys are grieving the potential loss of Kenny, and it's genuinely sad. And at the end of the episode, he actually dies. And it's not like he gets better, then dies in a wacky way for some comedic relief. He dies in the hospital from his disease, and they make it even worse by having Stan come too late. In my opinion, this is way more sad than Stanley's Cup. I mean, this isn't some random kid, this is Kenny, the fan favorite character. And this was actually...
Yeah, and they killed him for like a season, right?
Actually supposed to be the end of his character. He's missing from all of the next season before they finally decide to bring him back. But like I said, that episode is loved by fans, yet it plays out almost the same as this one. So why? Well, I actually have a whole video about this episode, one of my earliest South Park videos, so I'll give the abridged version here.
Interesting.
Despite how sad this episode is, it's also really funny. The fact that it plays out so...
That makes it better, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like also, like, you can have the same situation, but this is art. The reason why I love animation, I love storytelling, is because the themes in these episodes could be wildly different. Like, the themes could be incredibly diametrically opposed. Like, the theme of the Stanley Cup episode is hopelessness and how life's not fair. I don't know. I feel like it's different. It's a completely different ingredient.
Seriously is ironically what makes it funny, because Kenny dies all the time and no one ever cares, so framing it like it's some life-altering event when they're usually so casual about it is what makes it darkly hilarious. It also has a Cartman side plot that's super funny. So the episode is funny in spite of the dark stuff. Stanley's Cup, for many people, is dark in spite of the funny stuff, which leads us back into what I was talking about in the intro. Dark humor is a balancing act. Now, I'm a firm believer in the idea that absolutely nothing is above being joked about, whether it be dark,
Based! This is why I love Blooms. He's so real. He's so based.
topics like this, offensive topics like race or gender, everything. But the key to doing it successfully is in the balance. The darker the topic...
Just don't go to England and make fun of Islam, okay? Aside from that, you're good. The reaction to a joke about Islam in the UK might be explosive. Fuck, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I had to do it. I'm so sorry. I love my Muslim homies. I had to.
you cover, the funnier it has to be. The joke has to be at least as funny as it is dark or offensive. It's a very precise balancing act, and messing it up often leads to pretty bad results. It's why I tend to cringe when I hear people talking about having a dark sense of humor, but the extent of their humor is the same tired racist joke that their great-grandpa was telling. I mean, at least try to say something creative or clever in your racist joke. South Park has been doing it for 27 years, and they're still kicking. And in fact, South Park is the perfect example of this concept. Their success is built on the fact that no matter how edgy they get, making people laugh is always the priority.
Yeah, true. South Park's still alive today because they've never buckled to the cancel mob, and that is why we will be reacting to every episode of the next season. I'm so excited for it.
But tangent aside, my point is that you can make a kid dying of a terminal illness funny. They did it years before this episode. But the difference is that for a lot of people, this one simply wasn't funny enough to outweigh an absolute bummer of an ending. So
That's valid.
Basically what I'm saying
That is valid. He's making a really good point here. He really is, for sure. I don't know. I didn't even come to it from that angle. Because I like dark stories. I am something of a bitch in that regard. Like, I'll pick a movie and I'll just be real here. I'll be watching a movie with a certain special somebody and they will not be appreciating it. She'll be like, why do you want to watch something if it's so sad? People are dying. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. Listen, anyway, every once in a while, there are some movies that I gotta watch myself. You know what I'm saying?
Saying is that it seems like the reason so many people dislike this episode is that it was darker than it was funny. Was this an unnecessarily confusing and long-winded way of coming to a conclusion that most people could have pointed out immediately?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm a YouTuber. If there's
You gotta pad out that runtime, baby.
thing we're good at, it's making surface level observations, over explaining them, and presenting it as if it's some kind of groundbreaking revelation. And that brings us to the part where I share my own opinions on the topic in a desperate plea for validation from my supporters,
Alright,
only
let's
to
go.
ignore said supporters and fixate on the few hateful comments I get that validate
God, why is he so real today? Why is he so
my
based?
internalized feelings of inadequacy since my
True! I will go through the thousands of positive comments and then see one comment that says you're a gay pedophile, and my entire day will be ruined because of it. All right, listen, I'll just be real. We've all been there.
opinions are intrinsically tied to my own self-worth.
True.
Well, anyways, I actually really liked this episode. I know I put it pretty low in my ranking video, but that was almost 4 years ago at this point, and my opinions have drastically changed since then. I think this episode is very funny, and for me, the ending really works. What I love about it in particular, and what I find to be kind of genius, is the idea that Stan is on the losing side of a storybook ending. In those sports movies, we always get the happy ending, but on the opposite side of those happy endings is always someone whose story ends on a tragic note. I mean, think about it in the real world. How many athletes were in this exact position, ready to realize all of their hopes and dreams and have their happy ending, only to have it all crushed as their opponent gets their happy ending? Again, it's super dark.
Yeah,
for me,
it's dark, it's twisted, and I like it too. I agree with him. I do like the idea of being on the twist of being on the other side of a storybook ending.
it never felt too dark.
Dude, I really hope he makes the observation I made. I'm a little nervous he's not gonna get there.
I like the episode, but I can definitely see why a lot of people don't. I think that conceptually, this episode is hilarious, but the execution was simply too much for a lot of people, which is okay. But now, hopefully we all have a better understanding of how South Park's darkest episode became so hated.
Interesting. Yeah, that was a good video. I really like that video. As you know, we will do lore dives on all of South Park at some point. Probably it'll happen. Definitely subscribe. And definitely check out Blooms. He makes great videos. I don't know. I'm surprised he didn't bring this up. I think, I realistically think that every story has a theme. Every piece of art has one. And I think this one is the fact that life is sometimes not fair. You know, the fact that sometimes you are just outmatched and life is gonna shit all over your face. And I think that is a very appropriate and mature theme for a story. I really do. Sometimes you're not gonna get the storybook ending, whether it's on the hockey field or whether it's on the fact that unfortunately kids do die of cancer. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Definitely subscribe. Daily videos. We here at Taku Studios do not condone child violence. We do, however, find it hilarious. Stay weird, fam. Like, subscribe, and this video was streamed live on kick.com/Nuxanor. See you there. Stay weird, fam.